Nicole, great to be here at Dan Pearlman. Dan Pearlman is an agency. I think over the past 20 years you realized something like 1,500 projects. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Well, this is not very easily explained because 20 years, you can imagine that we've been along for a long time and that we kind of developed a lot of different disciplines, and also because we're very curious, we went into different sections. But nowadays we're an agency network based here in Berlin on this campus. We've more or less about 2,000 square meters. We've got 120 people working here. And so, for example, one company my husband is running, they plan zoos, aquariums, and leisure parks, and also hotels. So everything that is a real destination. And my company, my side of the company, we're doing also mixed-use destination developments, shopping mall revitalizations, retail revamps, and store planning and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's something we want to talk about today.
Very good.
Retail was really hard hit by COVID crisis right now. How do you feel that? Are projects delayed, cancelled, or don't you feel a lot about it?
Well, there is no black or white here, because as versatile as the retail sector is, direction where to the crisis. And some clients got simply shock frosted, and then they didn't do anything for a while until they just regathered momentum. Some are actually really gaining momentum. They're a real winner of the crisis. And others, they're just a little bit hesitant to see how it's going. But the ones I like the best are actually the ones who are using the crisis as a massive chance for transformation. So what we see is an increase in demand on consultancy, digitalization, also new customer journeys, more customer-centric thinking. So there is, a huge change.
Yeah, typical companies on the winner side are e-commerce companies. But we see more and more of those e-commerce companies going into physical retail as well. I mean, we see examples like Mr. Spex, Optician, or Fahrrad.de, bike e-commerce shop, so two of the leaders in Europe, going to physical retail. And you're involved in these kinds of projects. Can you talk about this a bit?
Oh yeah, I absolutely love that. Because it's so great to work with pure player in the digital sector, because they have so much data. They're very agile, they're quick, they can change dramatically. And the minute they go to brick and mortar, they have this agility in head, and they want to beta test and then transform immediately. And because that means you just open the first store, and then over a period of 2 years, you gradually work on just improving the concept. And because they have the data, it's not a black box where you just do something and then you think, maybe that was good, maybe it wasn't, or the weather was different at the time. You can immediately improve the system.
But still, it's a big difference. I mean, from online, they're used to, just by the click of a button, they have a different web shop or web front end. Whereas in physical space, you need time to build, and you need a series of stores, basically, to evolve the concept.
Yeah, that was when we started doing this kind of concept, because the digital people, they just didn't have any idea about physical project managed for physical spaces. So the idea that maybe a marble will take 3 months coming from Italy because there is summer holidays, that would just blow their mind, and was like, what? In 3 months I have changed it 20 times. Yeah, but you don't change marble 20 times, you just do it once and you do it properly. And that was a bit of a problem in the first place, but now gradually everybody has been accustomed to each other, and now it just is really interesting how quickly they can grow their networks.
And how do they stand to experience? I mean, online is known for efficiency, for being very very easy to use from a customer perspective, but not very well known for experiences. How do you teach online companies experience, or do they have that internalized anyhow?
Yeah, they have a different experience. They have different targets, and this is actually really what we're specialized is to look at what is the customer journey for a digital customer, and then we take that and we see how we can transfer that into physical retail without having a lot of digital surfaces. Because the funny thing is, a customer, the same customer on an online store behaves 100% differently than one in a physical retail space. And so all of a sudden, you can't literally transfer one-to-one. You have to find an analogy or something to transform that idea into the physical space. And then we would like the whole physical space to be really haptic and really sensual. And the digital service are just serving and best not to be seen, but you can feel them.
So that's why people are going to stores, because they want to experience and touch things. And as I understand you, digital shouldn't be in the way, but really serving behind the scenes, knowing what the customer probably wants. That's obviously helps.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's about being in a real environment. But you're still using digital elements in stores, aren't you?
We have to. I mean, we use them where it has purpose and makes sense. And if you're just doing body scanning measurements, if you have digital mirrors so you can actually see your glasses, how they fit yourself, and then you can send it to your community, and things like that, where it's very, very obvious that a digital service is so much more fun and so much more service than just having a normal mirror or just some normal surface.
So one concept you created was Bon Prix Connect store in Hamburg, and there, the striking thing for us was that the digital seems to be really be a natural part of that store experience. It's not a traditional store, but it's not just a transfer from something online to something offline, and that was, for us, very, very striking. Can you talk about how this concept was created?
It took a lot of time and it was a lot of effort, because as you can imagine, the first thing is they say we do single item presentation, it looks like a mixture between how can I describe that? Like a media market and some products like a gallery.
Yeah. It's really breaking radically with what fashion retail normally is. I mean, they have been used to presenting fashion, and you can take it from the shelf and take it to the fitting room, and that's radical different.
Yeah, and the thing is, first of all, the client, the typical Bon Prix customer, she's not waiting for digital services, because she's so used to just have a lot of clothes, put them on your arms, and then go with 20 items into the dressing room, tiny dressing rooms, and then have a very great value for what you buy. And so she's not expecting huge service or an amazing, attractive retail environment. And that's why we actually tackled the customer journey and made sure that the services are very, very discreet, and that it just is a very beautiful world where you have a lot of inspiration and you see the styles on a runway, and everything is very close to you. It's about proximity and emotions, and then you just walk through and then you scan, and the scan process is so light. You don't have to go scan, it recognizes it immediately, and then you can just pick all your favorite items. You have a basket, you say, send that to my dressing room, and within 3 minutes you have all your products in a dressing room that's big, where you can change the light to the occasion, and you can change as many times as you want. And normally, if you're in a changing room, after the third time, you don't want to ask anymore to change it another time or another color. You need a lot of self-esteem to do that. But with the system, you can change your stuff as much as we want.
So you're touching on two very important points. The one is the importance of the fitting room that we see growing and growing, because that's where the decisions are made. And the other one, that digital has to work just perfectly and seamlessly. Now the store's been open, I think, for about a year or so. Do you have any feedback from Bon Prix on the store? What were the key learnings?
First of all, I talked to a lot of customers and they loved it. Especially what we thought that older customers will have huge issues with the digital process, but they absolutely adore it because they said, first of all, the people working there have a lot of time to consult because they don't need to fold away stuff all the time. So they have a lot of time for the customers. And secondly, they can take as much time as they want. They're not hushed through a process, through changing room or through payment process. They can do that and decide when they need help or when they don't. And so that is a self-empowerment of the customer, and they absolutely love it. For Bon Prix, they don't give the numbers, so we are not allowed to give out numbers. So, but the thing is, they get a lot of new target groups, because a lot of people just come into the store. They haven't heard of the brand whatsoever, and so they attract a lot of customers that they've never had on the online shops before, and that's really valuable because. For most digital retailers, a new customer made through brick and mortar stores is actually cheaper than an e-commerce customer.
So Bon Prix got the rewards for being brave. Do you see many companies out there being so brave to really try something new in retail?
Yeah, after Bon Prix opened, I mean, there was a huge run from retailers from all over the world coming.
Everybody looked at it.
Everybody was there.
I haven't seen it anywhere else so far. So.
Yeah, but then now there are a lot of retailers pushing new concepts, especially those personless, how do you say that, manless stores, like Tegut, Theo. That is also a very interesting concept, I must say. I mean, self-scanning process, we will see how vulnerable this process is, but I think we'll see a lot of unmanned stores concepts popping up over the next couple of years.
Especially in food retail, in fashion, I mean, you want the advice and you want the human interaction, but for groceries, that's definitely a different story. That's about efficiency and about having the goods and making it as easy for the consumer as possible.
Yeah, everywhere where is, for example, in the countryside, where you just need a heavy-use junction, and then you could put a retail there, and where you don't need consultancy. Perfect system.
When we look a bit into the future, on technology-wise, what are you playing around with currently? Is there anything you see coming up, really cool things that companies are trying out?
Yeah, what we're actually working on is this blending of online, offline, and virtual and physical. We call it cross realities. So where we actually would love to be a table and interface. So you do not have buttons or you do not have digital surfaces, where you just say, put something here, it will be tracked through tracking devices, or it tracks itself even better. And then because you put it here or here, it just gives you different informations. And I think this will be a very interesting process to figure out how you can explain things through it, like especially if you have very complicated products like trainers, shoes, or outdoor performance gear, and it just talks to the customer, not being in a tech way, but in a sensual way.
Yeah, we're talking about this a lot, being digital without feeling digital. Yeah, so exactly. Actually having these natural interactions that are digitally supported. Mm-hmm. And that makes especially spaces very adaptive. I mean, because when it's off, you don't see that there's something digital missing, because right now when you don't have any content, you have a black hole in the wall, basically. But when you're working with these kinds of digital surfaces, they just blend into the space, and you don't feel if it's not there. You should feel it, because it should be a good service. So your dream projects, what would that be?
My dream project? Oh, we love complex projects. So the more complex, the better it is, and where it's not precisely clear what the solution is to the problem. So, and that is what happens more and more, that customers approach us and say, we just need younger customers, or we need this or that, or we have turnovers, or we want 1,000 stores and 1 billion turnover in 5 years. How can we do that? And this challenge is the best kind of how to work with, because then it just really comes to a point where you can start innovation. Because it is not, we need a store or one pop-up, or we need a street revitalization, because then if you have these open questions, you can really come up with really inventive new ideas.
So, very, very exciting things. I see you love challenges.
Yeah.
Thank you much for this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for coming over to Berlin.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.